Good evening, and I'd like to welcome you and call to order our Lucan Biddulph Council meeting for Tuesday, March the 3rd. I would like to acknowledge that I am an ally of Indigenous peoples. The Township of Lucan Biddulph is located on the treaty and traditional territory and ancestral lands of many Indigenous peoples and is covered by several Upper Canada treaties. We honor and respect the history, languages, and cultures of the diverse Indigenous peoples who call Lucan Biddulph home. We endeavor to unlearn colonial mindsets and practices and to grow in knowledge. As we build meaningful relationships, we recognize contributions of Indigenous peoples and respect their leadership and partnership in shaping and strengthening our community. We acknowledge historic and ongoing injustices that Indigenous peoples endure in Canada, and we affirm our commitment to honoring Indigenous voices, nations, and cultures, and to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none. We have no additions to the agenda. We don't have to go into closed session, no public meetings tonight, but we do have a few delegations. And I'm pleased right now to welcome Michelle Courtney, who is the president and CEO of Blue Water Recycling. And she's got a presentation to share with us about many of the updates that we've been experiencing in our waste and recycling collection. It's great to see you, Michelle. Thank you for joining us, and I'll hand it over to you.
Great. Thanks for having me. It's nice to meet all of you. So I'm just going to start with a brief overview of who we are in Blue Water Recycling Association, and then I'll talk about the IC&I collection and a little bit about Green Bin. So up on the presentation there, if you go to the next slide, maybe. No worries. There we go. There we go. So that's just a geographical footprint of our collection area. So we collect 19 different municipalities over 4 counties, Huron, Perth, Middlesex, and Lambton County. Geographically, it's all about an hour in all directions of our facility in Huron Park. So by the numbers, what does that mean? So that means that we service 188,000 people in 97,000 households. We manage roughly 56,000 tons of material and generate $24 million in revenue, have $20 million in assets, and have 83 employees. So what are the benefits to you as a municipality of having Blue Water Recycling Association? So we're a not-for-profit organization that generally runs a municipal cooperative. We are governed by a board of directors, which is 8 councillors, 2 in each of the counties that we service. You're here in Lucan. Dave Manders sits on our board, and our board basically governs our overall direction of the association, and then myself and my staff look after the day-to-day operations. For you as a municipality, it allows you to have a solid waste organization that's hands-free from the municipality. So we are your solid waste management service provider, and it allows your staff to focus on equally as important services within your community and allow us to take care of the rest. We don't own or operate a landfill, but that's by design, as our focus is on diverting material versus disposing of the material. So now to look into the Blue Box transition and the changes that we have been seeing so far. So here's a timeline of the transition. It really started back in 2021 with the first initial reporting deadline to the ministry. But the change really happened in April 1st of 2024 when all of our members transitioned to extended producer responsibility, or otherwise I'll refer to as EPR. We had some amendments that I'll talk about more on June 4th of 2025, a letter from the ministry that I'll talk about a little bit later on October 1st of 25, and then fully on January 1st, 2026, we're now in full EPR. The producers have taken over full obligations to the Blue Box program. So operationally for residents, what did that mean? I think from our standpoint, it was pretty seamless for all of the residents. We were able to successfully get contracts with the producers for all of our members for recycling. So that meant that there was really no change to collection. It's the same trucks, the same material, the same bins, the same days for all of our residents. So I think if I've never heard anyone realize that there was a transition back in April 1st of 2024. Administratively for us, we had to hire an additional person to take care of all of the data collection and reporting that was required from the producers to do the same work that we had been doing previously. However, I think it was pretty seamless in regards to the residents. For you financially, as of April 1st, 2024, 100% of your residential recycling cost fell off the municipality's books. So in actuality, that meant about 95% of your recycling costs fell off, as there was still the non-eligible or your IC&I portion that the producers did not pay for. There was no impact on your current waste co-collection and disposal agreements, as we were still collecting the recycling, so there was no changes required for those agreements. Looking forward into 2025, on September 4th of 2025, Ontario published the final amendments to the Blue Box Reg. There's 4 important ones that I wanted to bring to your attention and the changes that happened. One being the extended recovery timelines. So the regulations brought in new recovery targets for the producers to reach as of January 1st, 2026. However, these were deferred and their targets remained the same until 2032. They phased in the plastic recycling. So again, they were required to recover more flexible plastic in the reg, but the amendment changed that to phase it in, and that so they're only required to recover 10% in 2026, and it goes up to 25% gradually by 2032. Public space in the regulation, originally it was required that wherever you as a municipality collects waste in a public space, they were required to match that with recycling. So say your main street or parks or ball diamonds, the producers were supposed to have to expand their public space requirements to have recycling collection on those locations. However, that was removed from the regulation. And so now there's no expanded. They would still be collecting what we collected previously, but there's no expanded requirement anymore. And then the energy recovery options. So producers can meet up to 15% of their recovery target through recovery of energy. So AKA like incineration. So moving forward to January 4th, 2026 would be your new era, your full extended producer responsibility, where the producers are now 100% responsible for the cost, the processing, the collection, and the promotion and education of the Blue Box. Again, for residents, there's not really a large change. I would say the only benefit here was that now there's an expanded box of acceptable items that you would have seen now, and that's standardized across the province. So what residents can recycle here in Lucan, they can also it's the same list that they recycle in Toronto. So if you're on a vacation still in the province, it's the same acceptable list. So I just had here, this is what the eligible sources are. So when I'm talking about residential recycling, these are the eligible sources that are part of that residential program. Now, single family homes and seasonal dwellings are new and existing, but for multi-res, public and private schools, long-term terrace homes, and public spaces, those are ones that existed as of December 1st, 2025. Any new schools or multi-res buildings that go on are occupied post January 1st, they're no longer acceptable until they can apply to register for the program in 2031. And so now, what about IC&I properties? So by definition, IC&I is industrial, commercial, and institutional properties, and they were explicitly excluded from the Blue Box regulation, and therefore they are no longer part of the provincial EPR program, which is why you've seen us have the red lid recycling bins now. So they're all on a separate route. We're not allowed to commingle. They're not allowed to even touch in theory. So they're all on a separate route on potentially different days depending on your municipality than your residential collection. So what are the IC&I or the uneligible sources? So these are what they classify as non-eligible. So your municipal buildings, campgrounds, commercial farms, industrial commercial properties, not-for-profits, daycares, and places of worship. The places where it gets really complicated is your multi-use sources. So if you just want to switch to the next slide there. So the multi-use sources are examples like this. So a lot of times it's a main street where you have your stores down below and your apartments up top. According to the producers, the apartments up top are part of their program and we're required to collect them in blue box with a blue lid, but the commercial down at the bottom needs a red lid and they're not allowed to be commingled. So you can imagine how complicated that gets, but that is the right answer. And the same with this one where you have the mixed uses. You may have a street that has multiple residential buildings and then one commercial building. I still have to collect that one commercial building on a separate route than the rest of the street. So I had some frequently asked questions I had as we transitioned to these red lids in the IC&I program. So the one question was, why did the notification come so late? Commercial properties wondering why it just came in November and December. Well, just as we were finalizing our plan for 2026, on June 4th of 2025, Ontario proposed amendments to the Blue Box Reg to require the pros to include an offer to allow the co-collection of commercial and residential material. So this is how we were doing it in transition and how we hope to do it going forward. So at that point, we immediately started lobbying to our local and provincial governments, explaining to them that a segregated system was very inefficient, and hoping that they would push this proposed amendment through and we would be able to continue on as we had in the past. However, on October 1st of 2025, the Ministry of the Environment sent out a letter stating that the pros will not voluntarily continue to offer this service to municipalities who are willing to pay for it, as we had been doing in transition. They identified challenges to providing small IC&I collection that would make it impractical and unaffordable for most municipalities and potentially disruptive for the residential collection run for the pros. So basically that gave us 3 months from October to December to plan and implement an IC&I program. So we started by completing what the IC&I routes were, procuring the new red lids, hiring IC&I drivers, creating the promotional and educational material, and then ultimately sending out our team by the end of November, start of December, to change the lids and discuss the program with the commercial properties. Another question I've always had is how did we determine biweekly? So that's the only difference from the frequency was that everybody is in a commercial property is biweekly. And we didn't take this lightly, but we needed to do analysis to see what was appropriate. So we first did analysis of their current collection, and we thoroughly examined the existing collection patterns and frequencies for IC&I properties and established a baseline of typical service needs. We analyzed the historical bin lift data, revealing that many IC&I bins were not consistently full upon collection, identifying a potential for over-frequent service. We had a detailed review of material volume and weight in the IC&I bins and confirmed the biweekly collection aligns with the average generation rates without compromising capacity requirements. For IC&I properties, especially those sparsely distributed across a large region, weekly collection proved highly inefficient. Trucks often traveling long distances for partially filled bins, leading to unnecessary fuel consumption and increased operational costs. Biweekly collection allows us to consolidate pickups, thereby optimizing truck routes, maximizing driver time, and reducing our environmental impact, all while maintaining adequate service capacity and quality for our IC&I members. Now, I do realize that this is just the average generation, so there will be outliers outside of this. However, if someone requires an additional commercial red lid recycling bin, they're more than welcome to call the office and we will deliver it free of any kind of service charge. So some key points for the IC&I recycling. So their other services remain unchanged. Garbage is still collected with the residential garbage and the days and frequency does not change. Quality still matters. So our IC&I properties are still governed by our old acceptables list. So the list prior to January 1st that we had with it for our residents before that. And the quality matters as it reduces our cost at our collection and sorting by having lower contamination. And then there's some exemptions, as we had talked about. Some IC&I properties like school, not-for-profit, long-term care facilities still remain eligible for the pro recycling program. So where's our path forward? For 2026, BRA will maintain the cost structure for IC&I properties at the 2025 rate with only a CPI adjustment applied. However, we are currently absorbing a significant operational cost due to the inefficiencies of these new routes, which involve long distances and minimal tonnage. We are actively optimizing on our IC&I collection routes, and our plan is to inform municipalities of the true cost of collecting IC&I bins by the end of the month. Preliminary analysis indicates that the current rate of $71.40 per bin is projected to double or even triple for 2027. I'm projecting the 71.40. I'm getting pretty close now, so I think it'll be between $160 and $180 a bin. So once the municipalities are presented with the revised cost projection, we request that a decision on how to proceed be made by June 2026. And in theory, as a municipality, you have three primary options. One would be to continue the current arrangement and absorb the cost of the IC&I collection. Two would be to decrease or to increase the charge to the commercial properties, either partial or full for the costs that are invoiced by BRA. Or you can decide to discontinue the collection for IC&I properties altogether. Our recommendation would be option two. I think directly charging commercial properties for the recycling costs. We believe residential users should not subsidize the commercial recycling expense and that commercial properties should be charged accordingly. This approach will also incentivize commercial properties to accurately assess their bin requirements and consider more cost-effective solutions such as a recycling dumpster, depending on their quality, their material quantities. And our rationale for June 2026 is that it's to align with the upcoming municipal election cycle. This also allows BRA sufficient time to conduct outreach to commercial properties in cases where municipalities opt to discontinue collection or where it might be more cost effective for a commercial entity to utilize dumpsters instead of the current number of wheelie bins that they're in their possession. So I'll just pause there because the next part I'm just doing a quick overview of the green bin, but see if anybody has any specific IC&I questions before we go on.
Okay, thank you for that, Michelle. Questions on what Michelle shared up until this point? I'll go Deputy Mayor and then Councillor Regan.
Thanks, Michelle, for that. Did a more thorough job than sometimes I do. So thank you. Just wondering on I do agree with the recommendation option two. So does that mean like as a dumpster, would it be picked up less frequently? So if someone had 2 or 3 bins, they do a dumpster and then it's say once a month, and then that might equate to a savings for the commercial person or not? Is that the idea around putting them to a dumpster?
Yes, exactly. So our recycling charge right now per lift is about $44 for a dumpster. We only have one size of recycling dumpsters. It's the 6-yard bin. So looking at if it was about $160, then if they had more than 4 or more bins, it would be cheaper probably to do a monthly collection of the recycling dumpster.
So that's the number, the four. Yeah. That's the magic number. No, very good. And then again, explaining, which is good. That's going to be BRA's job to explain this, which I like, because at the end of the day, if these people have a problem with it, it's called, call your provincial government, not your municipal elected official.
100%. Yep. And I'm still continuing, like, the segregated system in a rural area makes absolutely no sense. And so I'm still advocating to the government on that. But yes, this wasn't a Blue Water decision. This wasn't a Lucan Biddulph decision. This was a provincial government decision.
Yeah. And sorry, another one. And is there anything the municipalities can do to assist when we have a GAMO conference and that to help with lobbying that or a ministry to discuss this and the stupidity of the collection?
Yeah, so I'm actually currently working with the municipality of Blue Water on another letter to go to the ministry and to AMO and to Waste to Resource Ontario. So I plan once that is done to basically share it with all of our municipalities to see if they want to endorse it to go forward as well.
Yeah, because it's mind-boggling. It really is, and I'm just glad that it's not us implementing it. Yeah. Thank you.
I might suggest just with the communication that you've already put together and are continuing to roll out, that maybe at one of your board meetings collectively you look at a delegation on behalf of Blue Water and representatives from the member municipalities would attend and you just have, one lead or something, right? Rather than have all the members apply, they're not going to get it. But if you do collectively from the, that might work, but you could, yeah.
Yeah, good idea.
Councillor Regan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I may, there's just three things, Michelle, thank you. So on slide number 9, talks about extended recovery timelines. It says the recovery targets for core materials, paper, glass, metal, and rigid plastics are deferred until 2023, giving the producers time to build necessary infrastructure. So my question is that 6-year delay of doing that, is that, or how will that affect the diversion rate, and how is that going to affect the landfill capacities that we have?
Well, essentially, more material can go to the landfill. That the idea was to increase the recovery target so that they had to recover their paper and packaging that they're selling to their customers. But they deferred that for the additional 6 years. So they have no requirement to increase the amount of diversion.
All right, okay, thank you.
problem.
The other thing I was going to ask is about so I was looking at some of the graphics that you have for the education piece, and I'm just wondering what the plan is, because when I was reading through the rest of this, it may seem complicated to people, but I'm just wondering about the plan for education for residents when this comes to, when this starts.
So that is directed now through CMO, like Circular Materials of Ontario. They're currently supposed to be doing it. Will we see anything in rural Ontario from them directly? I doubt it. You can go to their website and you can get material. They have a Facebook page, they have an Instagram, they have their own Recycle Coach app. However, we've essentially still continued to do our advocacy that we always did. We still have our Blue Water Recycling app. Well, we actually have, so we used to use Recycle Coach ourselves, but we have our own branded Blue Water Recycling Association app now. We still do our own outreach, even though it's not part of the program and we're not being paid for it. It's a service that we need to provide to our residents. So any kind of group, whether it's an environmental activist group or a senior communities group or anybody that asks us, we still go out and provide them what is acceptable, is not acceptable. We still mailed out the calendars with the acceptables list and didn't just give the CM direction of acceptables list. That's very hard and convoluted. We made our own acceptables list to create that. So we're still providing promotion education, but as a part of this program, there's very little. I think they do some outreach fairs and stuff in the cities near Toronto and Peel region, but I haven't seen them come out this way.
So just, can I just follow up? So so is it the municipality's responsibility to educate the residents then? Like if it's not coming from anywhere else, or?
It's supposed to be the producer's responsibility.
Right.
Yeah, so the producers, the common collection system is administratively ran by Circular Materials. So that's who the ministry is paying to do the promotion education.
Okay, thank you. And I just, one more, just point of clarification, just about the, for business or for people that are, or places that are not eligible. You said in 2031, I missed that point, but in 2031, they can apply, like, for example, like schools. So we have a new school being built, so they can't recycle until 2031.
Not part of the pro program. So they can get a dumpster or a wheelie bin and be part of our IC&I program where they pay for it, but they don't get free collection until they can apply in 2031. We don't know what that registration process looks like yet. It hasn't been identified, but they would be able to register for the program in 2031.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Good for now. Thank you, Your Worship.
I would just say, I think that Blue Water did a great job of advertising up until, to prepare us for January 1st. I would say that your social media, your printed material was bang on, and anybody that didn't know what was going on, they just weren't paying attention, because I thought it was a really great campaign.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Councillor Hodgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of questions through you. Go back to slide 9 where Councillor Regan asked a question. I wanted to ask about the phased flexible plastics and those targets of 10% and then 25%. what does that mean? Is that like wraps and stuff? That's,
Yeah, it's the traditional flexible plastic that is very hard to recycle, which is what we didn't have in our program to begin with. But the recovery target was supposed to be, I believe it was 2020, or it was 25% right off the bat in 2026, but they've decided to phase them in over the year, so it's only 10% now. So it's, yeah, your flexible, your wraps around water bottles, your plastic bags, any kind of plastic like that, film, essentially.
so there is the technology, the ability to recycle those products, and or how does that work with the targets?
They need to recover them somehow. I actually haven't seen, they just built a new MRF, which is where all of our residential material is going, in North Dumfries, and I haven't had a chance to see it yet, so I'm excited to see that. 15% of their recovery targets can be through recovery of energy, so through incineration. I'm sure they're capturing some of it in an actual recycling. There is market for it. The problem with the flexible plastic is getting it so that it doesn't wrap around your machinery or get stuck in places.
Okay, thank you. And just a few other small questions. With the $71.40 per bin fee, is that a monthly fee or
Per year.
it's an annual fee? Okay. And then just with you mentioned the decision to be made June 2026. One of the options there is decide to discontinue collection services for ICI properties. And in the event that Blue Water didn't do this service, like, are there other companies that would be able to step in and provide that service potentially?
So that option wouldn't be that we wouldn't do it. It would be you as a municipality won't fund it anymore. So right now through ICNI, we bill you and you guys can decide whether you want to bill the commercial properties or not. We will still be providing that service. It would be whether you want to get out of it and say, Blue Water, if you want to do it, you talk to the commercial properties yourself and you get the money through them individually, not through us. The issues with that obviously is that commercial properties would then say, you know what, I'm not going to this headache, I'm not paying it, and then they're just going to throw everything in the waste bin and go to the landfill. So that's why I wouldn't recommend that decision. But we have no plan to discontinue our ICNI collection and continue to do it in the wheelie bin in hopes that eventually someday we'll be able to co-collect again. But I don't think that's a service for environmentally as well as for our municipalities that we'd want to stop altogether.
Thank you.
Any other questions before Michelle keeps moving on? Okay.
So just a quick overview of what we have kind of going on in the future. So we know there's a disposal situation in Ontario. We have a landfill capacity issue, and just even in our collection area and surrounding area, prior to 2027, we had 24 active landfills receiving material, and post 2024, we now only have 15. So it shows how many landfills, even in just our little area, are closing and reaching capacity. So what do we do about this? And one option is organic collection. So we've hired AET over the last couple of years to do waste composition audits in our local areas. And what it has shown is that 40% of the total waste stream is actually compostable material. So it's a large portion that we'd be able to divert from our landfills. We've always been able to, since we went to the automated system, we had the ability to be able to collect organics, and we're all a dancing partner per se, somebody that could process it because we don't have the processing facility. But now we have been able to partner with Try Recycling. And if any of you have had the chance to see the facility or haven't seen it, you should go see it. It's a great facility. They use a flexible in-vessel system like the one on the slide here. So it's a gore jacket that goes over the organic material, and then they regulate the heat and the oxygen into it. And then in the end, it creates an actual soil product that goes into Scott's bags and actually can be used for planting planting flowers in your garden. We like the whole circular economy impact on that and partnering with Tri. It also works well in areas that we collect, as they need contamination to be relatively low, which we can get in our rural area. More urban areas use anaerobic digesters that just use the energy off of the organics, but the material in the end is too contaminated, as well as too high in nutrients that they actually can't use it or sell it. It has to be bought and transitioned to actually be used on anything. So everyone that we service would work well with the Tri recycling process. Also with Tri, they have different types of waste that's available. It's not just your traditional food waste that you would see being collected in an organic stream. It's the food waste, but it's also the yard trimmings and soiled paper as well. So it gives us a little more material that we can divert from the landfill. What a typical pattern if we were to collect organics would look like is up here. So what we would recommend is that we would collect organics weekly, because it's your stinky factor, the material that you don't want sitting out for a long period of time. And then you would alternate between waste and recycling. Because what's left in the waste should be okay to wait a couple weeks. Now, the only caveat to this is that obviously now as a municipality, you're not responsible for the recycling. So we would have to get that change approved by the producers. I've had generic conversations with Reverse Logistics Group, who is the operator of the common collection system, who says they would definitely be open to that if a municipality were to want that option. So the other option is you could definitely do everything weekly, but obviously it's a lot more costly because I need to send another truck down the road. The way this works, it would be no additional trucks, just the extra driving time between here and Tri. And then the only other change in our program from what you normally see, it would be a 65-gallon bin that we would recommend you use. It would be the big one for the fact that it has yard and leaf waste as well, and the small one you wouldn't get enough in there. But we also would recommend a locking lid for just to be able to keep your wildlife out of it. So I have a video here on the slide that just shows an example of the locking lid. This one has a key. Ours wouldn't have a key. It would just be a knob. So that no one loses it and is calling us so they can get into their bin. But you will see the way the locking lid works is that you can keep it locked. When you open it, you lock it back up. It's fine. If it gets tipped over by wildlife or by something, it doesn't open and spill. It only tips open when it's being collected a certain way because it's magnetic. And so it only opens for our collection trucks. If you don't mind showing the video.
Who comes over? Doesn't have the phone to be able to turn this. Only when the homeowner does it. Garbage day comes, homeowner drags it out to the curb. Hauler comes by, picks it up, dumps it, puts it back down, away it goes. While it's still out there, somebody hits it with the car. Nothing. Only when the homeowner opens it. Or the hauler.
And that's all I got for now on the organic program.
Okay, that's great. Michelle, really do appreciate it. Okay, questions on the second half of the presentation? Deputy Mayor.
I guess currently there's no one within our association doing this, correct? Just right now, and maybe you can.
Yeah, there's nobody that we collect that does it. The town of Goderich does have organic collection, but it's collected by Waste Management. Nobody currently, I have done presentations like this or in more detail with costing to municipalities. Nobody is currently, I would say Strathroy Caradoc is the only one, and they're getting close to the requirement where their density is tight enough that they're going to need to look at organics. So they're still actively having the conversation, but most other conversations have kind of died with the municipal election coming up in the fall, but are looking at revisiting it for the 2027 budget.
Yeah, because it's more just putting it on hold till the new election. But and then you must do it at a certain population. Is that correct?
Yeah, you guys wouldn't be close to that. I think it's between 25,000 and 50,000, and then it depends on a density. You have to be between I think it's if you're more than 100 houses per square foot within that.
Okay, then it's your choice or not.
Well, then you're required to, you don't get a choice.
Right,
Right now,
right.
you're just supposed to use best efforts.
And then one good news, if for ourselves, I believe anyways, from a costing standpoint, the closer the municipality is to try, the more economical it is, correct?
Yes, you'll be at a good benefit there. I don't know what the plan has been with the cost that fell off for Blue Box. For most municipalities that are close to try, you can do it in a very similar price range than what you were already paying when you were paying for Blue Box. Also with Try, it's nice is they have a transfer station there. So the days when we pick up organics and waste, we can actually drop your waste off there and then they can transfer it to Twin Creeks and it saves us a little bit on the fuel costs as opposed to driving all our little trucks up to Twin Creeks themselves.
No, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Michelle, is there an issue with our landfills and the age that they're coming to and the capacity that they're reaching? You know, you've showed us that we've lost landfills, but I believe that some of them are coming either to a capacity or a licensing issue. And where do we stand with that?
There's definitely some within our area that are reaching their age. For you in particular, we take it to Twin Creeks and they're looking at an expansion. So I think there's going to be a place to put your waste. The issue is that I believe I was just at a conference and they said in all of Ontario, I believe 40% of our waste goes out of the country. So if the borders were ever to close and we weren't allowed to ship to Michigan or New York, that becomes an issue because now our local landfills can't take enough of our material. So I think we still have 10 years, 9 years of capacity and they're trying to expand it, but that's the,
At Twin,
well, just in
or just in
Ontario.
general, okay?
Yeah, and they're trying to expand and create and hopefully they can. But they said I think it would be down to 6 years if the borders were to close.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, last call for questions. So yes, absolutely.
I guess you'll reach out to our staff about our decision on that for a June vote or discussion. You'll reach back out to our staff asking for that.
Yes, I'm very close, so I figure probably by next week you'll receive a letter from me with all the details and what the expectation will be.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
No, I was just going to say that we're just accepting for information and that a report will probably be coming once we receive more information from Blue Water.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming. With that, I will ask for a mover and a seconder to receive that presentation as presented for information. Councillor Westman and Councillor Regan. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, our next delegation tonight is the interim detachment commander with the Middlesex OPP. And as Michelle exits, I will ask David Barnaby to come up and take the speaker's desk. Let him get settled and I will welcome you. It's great to see you. You're a new face to us all, but thank you for coming and we look forward to your presentation.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate that. That was a great presentation. I don't have a PowerPoint, so we'll have to excuse me on that. I do believe that you have the annual report reflective of 2024 and 2025 comparison. I will be going off of my own speaking notes, but certainly address any questions that council may have with respects to the report or anything that we do and how we offer our service to each and every one of you in the community. Overall, very successful year with respects to enforcement increases. Some things overall that outcome wise that we are looking to improve on moving forward within 2026 and into the future. But some takeaways, collisions and property crimes trended down. And Probably part of that, without drawing causation, but definitely a correlation is increase in charges. Certainly a presence has impacted, I would say has impacted that. Violent crimes within the area, specifically sexual assaults, have increased, as well as fraud has increased. And we do have a strategy in place that will hopefully see a reduction in that moving forward. As mentioned, traffic enforcement has increased, and our mental health calls for service has increased in this area as well. Across the county and across the province, that has increased. So it's the numbers comparatively are similar to the rest of the county and the rest of the province. Victim services, the acceptance rates has dipped slightly, but our referrals have risen in the area, and we can discuss some strategies on what we are doing to assist with that. However, ultimately, it is up to the victim whether they do receive the supports that we offer them. As mentioned, the total collisions within the area have reduced by 25% in 2025 compared to 2024. Highway Traffic Act charges as a whole increased by 54% from 2025 to 2024. And our warnings also increased. So it increased by 79% in warnings. So we do recognize that there is education that we have to provide to the public, and not just enforcement. But when we look at statistically, the trends that actually increase public safety are enforcement measures. And so that's why you're seeing both an increase in education and enforcement. Violent crimes, as I mentioned, did increase by 50%. Property crimes decreased by 17%. And our mental health occurrences, they did overall increase. In this area, we had 40 in 2024, which went up to 67 in 2025. Victim services, compared to in 2025, we offered 109 offered and 39 accepted. Compared to 2024, 87 offers were put out and 33 were accepted. So not the acceptance rate that we are looking for. However, again, it's a little bit more complex than just offering services. People have to be ready and prepared to receive them. Overall patrol hours, we did increase our presence within the community by 28%. 2,390 overall patrol hours within the area. As a result of that presence, we have seen a reduction in collisions by 37%. As mentioned previously, property crimes reduced by 23% in the area. If you would like a breakdown between the Highway Traffic Act and the overall charges, because overall charges within the area did go up by 54%, and that includes highway traffic and criminal code charges. 54% increase in HTA, which is Highway Traffic Act. Non-traffic criminal code went up by 58%. Criminal code traffic wise, so those are your impaired operations or anything that would dangerous driving, things under that nature. So criminal code, but under the traffic guise went up 37%. And overall violations, other violations that we would categorize outside of what I was just speaking to, went up by 112%. Again, that number there, it seems very great, which I would love to say, which is fantastic. But when you look at the overall numbers, sometimes those percentages can be skewed. The other violations went up to 17 overall. So for us to say that it went up 112%, I'm also going to be realistic that the number wasn't great from the previous year. So traffic forces, our focus, we did a lot of speeding enforcement within the area, 55% increase in speeding charges. There were 4 seatbelt charges, a little bit more hard to detect seatbelts within the area, but certainly a public safety factor, especially when it comes to accidents. And our e-tickets, so warnings, went up by 79% from last year. As mentioned, violent crimes, we did see an increase in that area. And when we look at violent crimes, they are not separated within the OPP category. So you could have an IPV, so an intimate partner relationship, where an assault has taken place, and that could be categorized as a victim against or a crime against person, and that would be categorized as a violent crime. Or you could have a gun-related incident, which would also be categorized as a violent crime. So when I say that there was an increase within that area, we have seen an increase in intimate partner violence and sexual assaults. But I would say that our gun violence within this area we didn't see an increase in that area. So 50% overall increase within that. We did experience a 8 sexual assaults in 2025 specific to this area, and 10 assault-related / firearms category area, which resulted in a 25% increase. Threats and other violent crimes that would fall outside of that category did increase by 33% as well. Our frauds did increase by 66%. There has been there's a lot of education that's required, and not just from the policing side of the house, but these are criminals obviously change their tactics, and there are a variety of different ways that they can manipulate our vulnerable communities. And we are working with our stakeholders to ensure that those education pieces are continuing. And as far as a Middlesex component, we've actually designated, so we have our benchmark occurrences where once a certain threshold has been met, where a fraud or any type of specific crime has been, it goes to our major crime unit, and they would investigate it because they have the investigative tools and warrant writing skills and so on to do that. However, when it comes to our frauds, Middlesex is one of the only detachments in West Region where we have committed detectives specific to fraudulent investigations, because we have seen a pattern. And across the region, there has been a pattern. Across the province, there's an increase in frauds, but we have taken the initiative here to designate a special investigator to better serve our communities. That person has started in a role just a month in now. Some data analysis working with our regional analysts to support that position, and we're really happy of the work that that person is doing right now, and I'm sure we're going to see some successes. The education piece has to correlate with it. However, the enforcement side of things, where we can actually lay charges on those that are committing these crimes, is something that we want to try to increase. Break and enters, I think because of the presence, again, I don't have causation, but definitely a correlation. We can draw that between 60% decrease because of our presence within the area. And mischiefs were reduced by 9% within the area as well. Drug crime overall hasn't been a significant issue within this area that we have identified from 2024 and 2025. The statistics supporting either one, the percentages or the correlation there is really non-existent as far as mentioning within this area. Overall provincial statutes up as well as far as our overall charges again. And just a breakdown of the mental health occurrences. As mentioned, we did have 67 mental health related priority calls within this area. 48 of them were related to mental health crisis. 10 of them were attempted suicide issues. 5 had correlation to intimate partner violence, family disputes, missing person, sexual assault, and suspicious persons were all included within those categories as well. We did have 1 overdose attempt. It was, but because of our officers, they were able to save that person's life within this area as well. And overall, victim services, as mentioned, were offered 109 times last year and accepted 39 times as far as those services. Moving forward, as far as patrol hours, I will mention this. As mentioned, there was an increase, significant increase from 2024 to 2025. We saw 2,313 hours for cruiser, 67 hours were on foot. And we had the aircraft specific to this area for 6 hours. That probably was in conjunction with some traffic enforcement. It helped with our aircraft. And almost 4 hours were spent in the schools. Mind you, during the whole 2004, 2025 legislation didn't allow us to be in the schools, where now that legislation has changed and we have taken proactive measures to get back into the schools. So you'll see an increase within that number moving forward for sure. Moving forward for some initiatives into this year, we're looking to continue our traffic enforcement between education, warnings and enforcement. We are seeing a significant deduction in accidents and things like thefts and businesses. So that presence is definitely making an impact. Increasing our awareness and education pieces. I feel us being in the schools now and us having a better relationship with our schools will also impact our intimate partner violence, sexual assaults, all of that area. So we have a more stable environment within certain areas where we're starting to see some trends, and maybe provide a more positive influence within those areas as well. As mentioned before, our fraud prevention, we are one of the only detachments within Western Region that we have designated a specific detective for monitoring frauds that don't meet the threshold of a benchmark occurrences. So we want to do a victim-centered approach and make sure that these frauds are being investigated by professionals, and we're doing our best to make sure to hold people accountable. Mental health crisis occurrences, they are on the rise. That's a difficult and complex call as far as how do we navigate that just as a police service. I believe that involves everyone, council, municipalities, stakeholders, as far as getting everybody to the table and discussing how we can do better for our communities and making sure that the resources are there for those that require them. A lot of times when it comes to sexual assault or intimate partner violence occurrences or mental health crisis calls, we are reactionary from a policing standpoint. We receive the call, it's a priority call, we go to the call, we do our best for public safety, and then we look to our partners to support future aspects of that. So we are working with our stakeholders and partners in hoping to reduce those every day. Property crime suppression. Our auxiliary program is the best in the province, and I can say that because I know the stats. We are a few with our auxiliary program, but we are very mighty. The amount of hours that they put forward across the county, which includes this specific area, is enormous, and we're very, very proud of what they do. Part of what they do is when we do have an investigation where there's a break and enter or anything, we would do specific an investigation where a SEPTED, where they will go and evaluate the external environment, and we've seen an increase within that support network that we can provide. And it's a free service that our auxiliaries come out and do that. They write up a very robust report and then provide that to a business owner with some suggestions as to what they can do better to maybe deter future crimes against them. So subject to any questions, that would be my report.
That's great. Thank you very much. Lots of information there for sure to share. So thank you. Questions or comments from council? Councillor Regan.
Madam Mayor, thank you, Commander. I do have a question about, I know that there's some talk about arming school buses with cameras so that we can identify drivers that are not stopping when they're supposed to be stopping. And I know it's been an issue in our community. And I'm just wondering, just from your professional rather opinion, whether or not you feel that would be effective. And does this continue? Because the last time we had a police report, I did ask this question again, but does this continue to be an issue and are charges being laid?
Well, oddly enough, and I'm not sure if you've seen the most recent media post by Jeff Hare, our community engagement officer, but we are actually in the middle of a bus public safety initiative this week. Collectively, as a region, Western region, the OPP has identified a significant uptick where vehicles have passed buses or have been involved in crashes with buses. So as an organization, we've taken action and this week is enforcement within that area. So there is a current initiative ongoing right now within Middlesex and within across the region. Specific to the cameras, any information that can assist us with an investigation, I think is always great. We aren't going to get into the politics of whether a municipality should endorse it or not. However, if information is provided to us, it's certainly something that we can follow up on with that and may lead to charges if there are grounds to do so, or at least may lead to a warning as well. So our experience with when the public provides us information via cameras, that it typically does allow closure to an investigation a lot quicker and allows us to increase our opportunity for a judge and a crown to be able to work with us and say, hey, can we lay a charge here? And is there a reasonable expectation for conviction? So there are advantages for sure to the use of the cameras.
Right. No, thank you. And I just wanted to say this, living in a rural community, a lot of our kids are bused every day. I see it outside my front window every day. So I'm glad to hear. Thank you for sharing that with me, that we're moving forward to just, we have a plan in place for that. So I thank you for that. Thank you, Your Worship.
Counselor Westman.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear that you're back in the schools. That's a big deal. Now I'm just wondering, like I used to be involved with community policing, so I'm just wondering, would there be any opportunities for like community engagement, internet security or drug awareness or things like that? Would that be something that would you have a resource officer for that or?
Yeah, absolutely. We that is always open. Anytime that there is a request from any type of municipality, you can address it to me and I will assign our community engagement officer to do that presentation. Specific, if there's something specific that you're looking at that falls outside of that person's expertise, then the OPP is very vast. There's no resource that we don't have. And we're not just pulling in from Middlesex, we're pulling in from the province. So any specific information that you're looking for, we can certainly assist with those type of community engagements. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Manders.
Just the fraud prevention interests me there. That's good to hear. Is that something that if we have an event going on in Lucan, whether it be Canada Day or we used to have a Summerfest, that's something you would potentially we could request if you're available, your person would set up a booth and hand out information and literature. Is that what you mean by education or no?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's I mean, not only is it an education piece, but it's also a recruitment opportunity for us. So
Yeah.
Absolutely. If we are, ultimately we would like to be engaged within those type of conversations anyways, just to able to assist with any public safety measures that may, if there's going to be an increase in population or a group of people anywhere, having that knowledge so we can properly staff our people, that's great. But if there's a request where we put up a booth and we set up with our auxiliaries and our officers, and there's an opportunity to educate through pamphlets, absolutely.
And then if there was an incident within I'll just say the county, and is that something where you would, this person with it being a new position, hopefully would reach out to our communications, Lisa DeBoer, to be able to post that and make people aware of that if there's obviously fraud going on, whether it be bills or whether it be, I don't know what kind, but
if we see a trend, you mean within a specific area?
Trend or immediate awareness as opposed to creating a trend.
Yeah, so the education piece would typically come from our community engagement officer, where they would, there's generic information that we try to follow trends within municipalities or in counties and then provincially as well that we try to educate the public on. That officer that we're speaking to about more specifically is investigating information that is coming our way. And we are constantly, I receive a report from him in our crime unit every week. And we're constantly looking at, okay, what are the trends? What are the fraud investigations and where are they coming in from? And what are some trends? And then if we feel like there's some education piece that has to be provided there, we will discuss and make sure that that information is provided to the communities just to be more aware
Yeah,
of,
good.
you know, a romance scam or something like that. So
No, thank you. No, that's, glad to hear you've added that position. Thank you.
Anything else? Counselor Hodgins?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Just with the fraud, just wondering, like, I guess he's coming through all different channels, but I guess a lot of these are probably like through things like email or social media, or you mentioned like the romance scam. Or is it still happening through phone or in person, or like how do you kind of characterize those fraud cases? All of the above. I mean,
Yeah,
what are the trends going?
they're you know, people are very resilient and they adapt. And I would say that our criminal culture does the same thing. They use any means and avenue to engage. They have a lot of, their network is very large. You know, the frauds are, they may seem like it's a minor fraud. It maybe just be a $50 fraud, but when you times that by 1 million, there's some substantial money that's involved in that, not just provincially, but nationally and internationally. So when we're investigating and we're spending these hours and during an investigation, we're not just looking at it from the victim within the community, but totality, the impact. The previous presenter spoke about the borders and the impacts of our waste. Those same impacts, frauds impact us as well, and our borders, so on. So they're international. So they expand. Just the network is very large. So how they do that and how they connect with the vulnerable sector is it's very interesting, and they do a great job of it, to tell you the truth. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. I guess I'd like kind of maybe a little bit more on the mental health occurrences, and perhaps maybe just a refresher on your MCERT program, and how that works. And is there any data as to why we're seeing these increases? Is it because now there's an awareness that these calls can be made to OPP, or is there something happening that is escalating these calls?
I don't know that I would have an objective answer as to why there's an increase in those calls. I can certainly speculate from my own experiences. You know, being a 26-year member of the OPP and being a father, you know, I have my own speculation. However, I'm representing the OPP here, so I'll leave my own opinions out. But as far as the MCERT program, we have a fantastic MCERT program, and it's actually increased. We were very fortunate to obtain a grant within this area, which now, in partnerships with our CMHA partners, have increased their staffing, which provides us greater coverage 7 days a week, right? So that is always great. So when we have subject matter experts that are in our cars with us, with our officers, going to calls, they are social workers, they have the resources, they understand nuances of mental health crisis better than we do. We have a specific role, they have a specific role, and in partnership, we can do that better. So that across the province, that is something that's going very well, and specifically to Middlesex, it's going very well. So very happy with our MCERT program. We're just transitioning from PC Tuffin to PC Whitsing. But there will be no delineation between the great work and the professionalism between what the two of them have done. Very happy with what PC Tuffin has done within that program and what he's done with it. He's actually moved on into a detective constable position, so we're really happy for him. And PC Whitsing is going to take over this program, and he's an excellent investigator and excellent professional as well. So, with respects to the trends, it's great that we get the calls and then offer supports. There's the age group of the calls. It's random. To be able to pinpoint a reason as to why. I know people have said COVID. We were receiving upticks in mental health crisis calls before COVID as well. So I think it's difficult to just pinpoint on one area. I think collectively as a community, we can do more, and those are always the conversations that we're interested in having, right? So.
Thank you for that. I'm a huge supporter of the MCERT program. I know Western Ontario's Wardens Caucus really championed that for 2 or 3 years and wanted the expansion in the grant program. So really happy to see that expansion happen and the work that's being done in Middlesex in particular. My only hope is that once those calls are made, and the idea is obviously to divert them from a police setting, that we can ensure that they're getting to where they need to be. And I'm not convinced that that's caught up with the work that the program's doing, but small steps and hopefully we get there. And then just on the victim services, and I know that's not your purview, but hand in hand, the call is made. Is there anything that we could do, and maybe this is also unfair to you, probably should have victim services here to say, because the work that they do is great and it's paramount to those recovering from being a victim of crime, whatever that might look like, how we can get that number to go up. Because I was startled when you compared the two numbers, increased offerings, but really the increased uptake in the service really didn't match that. So any word to the wise?
Well, within our Middlesex area, we actually have an OPP victim specialist assigned to our detachment as well. It's unique to other detachments. It's something that we've advocated for just because of the certain demographics that we have and what we police here. So we do have that, and in conjunction with her role, typically she would engage when charges are laid. However, we are working with that person as well to follow up with when we make these offers. Typically, what we've noticed is we make these offers and the person is still in crisis. So maybe they don't fully understand the impact that supports would have for them. And then if victim services, if they refuse victim services, then we don't contact them, right? Because they have to authorize us to contact them. So we utilize our victim specialists now to wait a few days, allow the dust to settle. Perhaps the crisis eases a little bit, and then that person will contact the victim and follow through with some support and engage them with victim services. And we're hoping that with this initiative in mind, that we'll start to see an increase in those that accept it. So I think there's certainly more, and we're really happy that we're offering more services, but I think as an organization, we can do more in follow-up, and we have the resources in place to do that and the specialists to do that. And we're always in conversation with our partners as well as, what their role is within this. We are limited with our resources and what the expectation is from the policing standpoint. So we do, really need our support as well from victim services, but they do a great job and their resources are limited as well, right? But so that's an ongoing conversation for sure.
No,
Yeah.
appreciate that. And then one last question, as my CAO reminded me that It is great that we have the office here at the corner of 4 and Saintsbury, and the presence coming into Lucan is there. Everybody can see that the OPP is here. And just wondering if there's, any chatter on it not being there, because we would like to be, a place where the OPP sees the value in having an office here.
There's a lot of operational benefits from having a outsource like the detachment in Lucan. It does provide we have specific officers that actually report to this location. Morale wise and building a team, all being under one roof is much better. However, we see the benefits to the community. So we've taken steps locally to increase our technological abilities within our detachments, so that way people have that sense of belonging. So I don't see us, unless you kick us out, I don't see us moving out. There's some significant, our ethos is preservation of life and to serve the community. So any steps that would remove us from being able to respond quicker and more efficiently to a community would really have to be supported and prioritized. So I don't see that anytime soon.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
It's on tape.
Yeah.
With that, no, we really appreciate the presentation, and glad that you were able to join us in person. As always, Lucan Biddulph is a proud partner with the OPP, and we're happy to support work that's being done. If you need a message getting out, please reach out to our communications department. If there's anything else that you need, please pick up the phone, because we're happy to be a partner.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank
Great.
you so much.
Thanks so much. With that, I would ask for a mover and a seconder to receive that annual report as presented. Please, Deputy Mayor Manders and Councillor Hodgins. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, thanks. Good night. Okay, on to the adoption of the minutes. We have one set in front of us from February 17th, and nothing needs to be corrected or amended or updated. I would ask for a mover and a seconder to approve those as circulated. Councillor Regan and Deputy Mayor Manders. All in favor? That's carried. Under the consent agenda, there are a few items that have been received. Nothing's been told to me that needs to be discussed, but Councillor Hodgins has his hand up. So what would you like to talk about?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And yes, apologies for the late notice here, but I would like to pull item 9.4 just for a question to staff, if I may. I just see that the MLPS is looking at doing some potential upgrades to the Lucan station. And again, sorry for the late notice here. But I see they were looking at two different options of them taking the lead on these renovations and doing them, and that's going to be more expedient. They can go right ahead, or they could be coordinating with the township. And I'm just wondering what the outcome of or what they decided to do if we're aware of what the paramedics decided to do there.
Yes, you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Hodgins. I met with the paramedics on last week, early this week, and they are going to go ahead with the renovations. They talked me through kind of what they wanted. There was no structural, it's all aesthetics, and they still are going to give me a plan exactly what they're going to do, but they're going to take the lead on it. They're going to pay for it. They're going to do all that, and I'm just going to kind of approve it and help them out where we can, but mostly they're taking it all on.
Okay, I think that's great news. Thank you.
I'll just give you some background on that. We had a other station that we were going to do some work on in it. We had ended up with some money left over, so it was decided that Lucan Station needed some upgrades, and the board directed that the MLPS manage or do it themselves for the very reasons that Darcy laid out, but to have the conversation in the event that we wanted to be a project manager, which I don't think we did. So glad that you had the conversation. Thanks for raising that. Anything else that anybody had any questions on the items that we received? Okay, with that, I'd ask for a mover and a seconder to receive those items for information. Deputy Mayor Manders and Councillor Hodgins, all in favor? That's carried. On to the items of correspondence. Any resolutions you wanted to speak to? Okay, seeing none, then I would ask for a mover and a seconder to receive and file those correspondence items. Councillor Westman and Deputy Mayor Manders, all in favor, and that's carried. On to committee reports. Anything further to add to Blue Water?
Not
Deputy Mayor?
not for the rest of the year.
That's good.
I think the bar has been set.
That's why I said that.
CEDC.
We have a meeting on Thursday.
Okay, Lake Huron, we have a meeting on Thursday. There's a set of minutes from the Biddulph Blanchard Fire Board on February 19th. Those are, of course, just draft, but they're for your information. BBCA.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We did have a meeting on February 19th. It was a pretty lengthy meeting. We got an update from General Manager about the consolidation. Nothing major there, still a lot of uncertainty with where that's going. We did elect a chair and vice chair, and Chair Chartrand is going to continue as chair. And Dave Marsh from Lambton Shores is going to take over for vice chair. There was an update about our permit reviews. Basically, they're 100% within the timelines for permit reviews. The fees that have been frozen for several years for conservation authorities, there was no indication that the fees are going to be frozen again. So ABCA is looking to catch up a bit there, increasing some fees. They were quite modest, really, like a 4% increase they're looking at for some of their fees. And then just lots of other work happening, a few master plans for some conservation areas. It was a busy meeting, but everything's going well. And I would just note as well, there is a partner appreciation event being held on March 26th. So if anyone would like to attend, they can follow up from that invitation that's attached.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions or comments? Okay, Parks and Rec.
Nothing to report. We meet again in May.
Trails. Okay, on to staff reports. The first one is a report that I believe Lisa is going to deliver.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. So before council tonight is an updated policy for the use of corporate resources during an election. Our last one was in 2018. So the 2026 one gives some updates that have happened in the meantime and just kind of cleans up the policy, which is outlined in my report about the differences between 2018 and 2026. Any questions from council on that policy? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments on what's in front of you? Good eye. Okay, then the motion in front of you, you see is that council adopts the use of corporate resources for election purposes. Policy 102-17-2026 as presented, and that the clerk be authorized to administer and interpret the policy in accordance with applicable legislation, and further that policy 100-50-2018 be rescinded. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Westman and Councillor Regan, all in favor? And that's carried. Did you have anything verbal, Ron? No? Tina?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. At this time, I will maybe invite our bylaw and building department staff up, as they did participate in the update of the bylaw that's being presented tonight. So council may recall in December, an amendment was made to our tidy yard bylaw. At that time, there was
a legal department head identified potential problematic area with enforcement, and a quick update was needed to ensure that was in place. But also at that time, staff and legal identified an actual need for an overview of the entire bylaw. So since then, the staff have worked with the county legal department and building bylaw, public works and clerk's department. There was a thorough review completed of the bylaw, and which is being presented to you tonight. Basically, a lot of the updates to the bylaw were to enhance property standards, put into place current legislation and stronger enforcement tools, updated penalties, and just clearer definitions and structure of the overall bylaw. So as I said, building and bylaw enforcement are here if council has any direct questions regarding the content of the bylaw. But for now, we are presenting it as draft with the hopes of bringing it forward at the next meeting for adoption. Oh, one other thing I will mention. Sorry. Our Dan Allery did catch it's a minor error in the bylaw between our zoning bylaw and the tidy yard bylaw. So there is an amendment being made to section 4.11, and that is just the zoning bylaw refers to 2 days in duration being allowed for yard sales, and the updated bylaw was referring to 3 days. So we have changed that to 2 so that they're consistent between the two of them. So I've made that amendment, and it'll be on the bylaw being brought forward for adoption.
Councillor Regan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'm just wondering, with this bylaw, when adopted, how are residents informed of this, when there's the new improvements and the things that they need to be looking for?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So staff will advertise this. It will be posted on our website. We can also use our social media avenues to advise of the new bylaw in place. As for specific amendments to it, is that what you're asking, or just how we're actually?
Just generally, yeah, I'm just generally thinking, because if we're changing and there are some key improvements to it, and I understand what we're doing
Yes.
at once, but I'm just wondering how people are going to know now what the new rules are, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. We can use our social media and website to advertise that. And I should mention too that there will be a new set of fines that will be introduced that we didn't have previously. Those have to be approved, and they will be posted on the website as well. And we're hoping to introduce a section on our website that will post all fines in future related to any bylaws. So hopefully that'll provide more easier access to that information.
Great. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Your Worship.
Any other questions or comments on what is in these? Deputy Mayor.
Just are all the fines new fines or higher fines, the set fines? Like, are they, or is it just a combination of both?
So they are new fines. I will maybe defer to Dan because he did help develop the fines and how they were determined, if Dan is available.
So through you, Madam Mayor, so the fines are heavier than they used to be. Some of the fines were quite low and didn't really change people's behavior when what was going on. So these fines are a little bit higher. These fines are to be, they can't be too high, which is why we have to come to a reasonable amount, which will get approved by the Chief Justice through them. But we don't want to go too high because we don't want to be too heavy-handed. Realistically, what we want is compliance, right? So we don't issue that many tickets. What we want is compliance. But these fines are in line with most other municipalities around for the set fines. They still need to be approved, but that's what we're aiming for currently.
Oh, that makes sense. And it would potentially, with this being somewhat new, would that be again an education? And then if they don't comply, it's going to be, hey, there is a new bylaw, and first maybe 6 months or so, or whatever, maybe in 2 weeks, or whatever you discuss it, that this now, we would apply a fine to this, and I assume somewhat. Or depending on the ignorance, I guess.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. So the fines were there in place beforehand. Most of these fines through the bylaw were there prior. Again, with myself, I do try to deal with more educational wise than tickets. So if council wanted me to, you know, do educational more for a period of time, I could certainly look at that. But essentially, once the bylaw is passed and the set fines are approved, I could issue those tickets as of that date. Again, I mostly try to get through education as much as I can.
I personally would leave it at your discretion. That's all. No, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so this is just for information and you're hoping to bring it back the next meeting, did you say?
Correct. Yes, I'm hoping to bring it back to the next meeting, and then we'll start the process of getting the set fines approved by the Chief Justice.
Okay, great. So you've got the motion in front of us that report CL-02-2026 be received for information, and that council directs staff to bring forward a finalized tidy yard bylaw for adoption at the next regular council meeting, and further that staff be directed to proceed with approval of the set fine schedule by the Chief Justice of Ontario Court of Justice. Mover and a seconder, please. Deputy Mayor Manders and Councillor Hodgins. All in favor? And that's carried. Did you have anything verbal or anything?
I don't, thank
No?
you.
Okay. And now I'm going to turn it over to building and bylaw for your two reports. So I think, Arnie, I think you're going first.
Yes, through the mayor, actually, if we could skip to the second report, 12.2.B. That's our bylaw enforcement summary. Well, Dan is here with me, and
Not a problem.
my first report, I'm going to introduce Marco to council as well. So
Sure. So you're going to do bylaw first.
if that's,
Yep.
that's all right.
Not a problem.
Yeah, so through the mayor, I'm pleased to be here. Dan and I are pleased to be here to present the year-end bylaw enforcement report to council, and to introduce Dan Allery to council. I'm not sure if we've had that official introduction yet or not. Dan's with us for maybe 3 years or so now, and 4 years. And we have 5 building inspectors with Middlesex Center and 1 primary bylaw officer. We find that Dan is very good at what he does. Each of our building inspectors are also bylaw enforcement officers, but we thought we'd share Dan with Lucan Biddulph. So we're pleased to have him here. So to the report, bear with me for a second. So what we found last year was a bit of a busier year in Lucan Biddulph. We a little bit of background. We've been providing building inspection or bylaw enforcement services, for Lucan Biddulph since about 2012. We've been appointed as bylaw enforcement officers, and this past year we've also expanded that service to Adelaide Metcalfe, and we've also assisted North Middlesex from time to time doing bylaw enforcement. But we've been primarily with Lucan Biddulph, like I said, since 2012. And a bit of a summary of what we've seen last year. The calls have seemed to have increased. Sorry, bear with me. Gotta give it the right screen. Yeah, so we've seen 62 new calls to bylaw enforcement this year compared to 49 in 2024. The primary call up this way right now is property standards and noise. Those are the 2 primary concerns that come our way. The 62 complaints aren't just 62 visits. Each of those complaints may be multiple visits, multiple emails, multiple phone calls, and education primarily, as we described. So that's, and the first table report provides that summary and sort of illustrated a bar graph of the similar comparison of the complaints that we've seen this past year. And at the end of the report, we provide a couple pictures, before and after photographs of what a couple success stories of what we've seen just last year, just for council's information. One final comment about the bylaw that you just passed as well. There's no major changes there. So with regards to educating the public of the new tidy yard bylaw, it's generally the same bylaw. It's been cleaned up in a lot of ways, but we have always regulated debris. We've always regulated long grass. So it's just been tightened up a little bit. So just wanted to add that as well. So we won't have to educate the count or your residents of a new bylaw. It's a continuation. So if there's any questions, Dan or I are happy to answer them.
Okay. Questions? Councillor Hodgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks for the report. I think it said that it's strictly complaint driven, right? Like there's no proactive bylaw enforcement. Is that correct? It's just based on complaints received that'll get investigated?
Yeah, so through you, Madam Mayor. So primarily we are proactive or reactive to the complaints. If I do see something myself that's safety issue or that kind of stuff, then I'll do that as well. But most of the time it's a call comes in, I look at the call, see if it's a violation, I'll go out to the property and then go for a call like that. Again, I'll only deal with usually attending a property if it's a safety issue without a complaint.
Okay, but I think you just said if you're in town looking at one thing and you do see something that is
If I'm one address and I see long grass and you know, derelict vehicles and right beside is another one, I'm going to deal with that property at the same time, or the streetwise. I mean, last year I know we on Main Street we had one specific location, but it was for a block of 4 or 5, so I dealt with them all at the same time. Also, we're dealing with real estate signs this year. Found that the real estate signs were just starting to kind of fall over, stay there for long periods of time. Grass is growing out through them. So I've started collecting those signs now, keeping them for a period of time. If they're not picked up, then they're getting disposed of.
Okay, thank you. With the property standards like increasing to 25, it looks like it was a busier year. And maybe there could be a number of things, but I guess, are you seeing like trends there? Is it certain things that were just, yeah, are there things that we're seeing more, or why reason for the uptick?
No, through you, Madam Mayor. It's just more, I think with Lucan growing, there's more population, there's more calls for long grass, people that have stuff in their yards that are not supposed to be there. So it's not anything crazy. I think it's just more that Lucan's growing and getting bigger. So we have more complaints coming in.
Okay, and last one, just because we were talking about the new bylaw and the fines, was there any fines issued in 2025 for bylaw offenses?
Yeah, so through you, Madam Mayor, we had one provincial offense notice issued for building without a permit. And one summons has begun for a property that's in disarray currently, and that's still in the court process.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, the property standards kind of caught my eye. I'm just curious, are any of that 25 repeat addresses in that number for non-compliance, or those are all 25 different addresses?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm not positive if there's any repeat. If they are repeats, there's very few of them. And most of the time it's a phone call of, hey, you're kind of, you know, got to get this done. Oh yeah, no problem. I'll take care of it. But I don't, off the top of my head, without having the actual address in front of me, I don't believe there's too many of them that are repeats.
I'd be curious next year if that number grows. Unless it's painful, just because again, it's a little bit eye catching, but if you were to say, however, if one address was 10 times, you know what I mean? Really the number's 15, be curious, don't need to know now, but it caught my attention too. I was hoping you were to say, yeah, actually one address was 10 times.
Yeah,
anyways.
no, I mean, typically if you have those kind of
Yeah.
addresses, again, I'm
Yeah.
there to gain compliance at the first time.
Yeah.
Education, that kind of stuff. But eventually if it continues,
Yeah,
then charges will be laid, or a summons if the charges haven't rectified the issue by then.
And if it is same address, whether it be noise or that, it'll be interesting how the fines will play a part in maybe not repeat addresses, but thank you.
Correct.
Any other comments, questions? Oh, yep, Jeff.
If I may, Madam Mayor, I'd just like to say, and the procedure that we've been following in the last, since basically starting citywide is we've got the request portal. And Dan has done a great job at using the citywide request portal. So, and he's also been a great resource with Julie as we process the comments that come in. So I think the system's working pretty good, and it's a great way to get pictures, information to the people that make decisions. So make sure we keep promoting the request portal, but it's working, and we got a great thing going there. So
That also could be maybe why there's been an increase if it's if it's easier for a resident to be able to put something through, you know, there might be more uptake of that. I just had a question on the table where it lists the complaint types and then the numbers. You have an asterisk beside animal care, animal control. Just wondered if there was a note that had to go with that as to why.
Yes, through the mayor, I was there accidentally.
Oh.
It was a
I was
carryover.
looking
from-
for some sort of,
It was a carryover from a previous report,
Okay.
yes. But
Okay, no worries. Thank you. All right, if there isn't any other questions to do with the bylaw, we will thank Dan for presenting and coming tonight. It was great to see you. And we'll ask Marco to come up, and while he's doing that, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder to receive that report for information, please. Deputy Mayor Manders and Councillor Hodgins, all in favor? And that's carried. Okay.
yeah, through the mayor, I'm pleased to introduce Marco Mazzuti. Marco's one of our primary building inspectors that we'll see up in the Lucan Biddulph area. Marco been with us maybe 5 years.
Coming up to 5 years.
5 years, yeah. And Marco and Dan, it was their idea that they wanted to come up with me tonight to meet council, be available for the year-end report and questions and introductions. So I'd like to just make sure council gets to see the face of Middlesex Center up this way. So we're pleased to present the year-end report for 2025. And there's a lot of highs and lows and explanations maybe that need or aren't needed here. Ultimately, it's been a bit of a slower year for Lucan Biddulph, what we found this year in comparison to 2024. Overall, there were, again, now I'm looking at table 2 of the report. Overall, there were 35 new dwellings in comparison to 49, which also had an apartment building that supported it in 2024. So we have seen a bit of a slowdown in Lucan Biddulph. Total construction value was generally maintained of about 43 million. And that's primarily due to this new school that we have up on Sainsbury. So that certainly has helped our construction value for this year. Number of permits generally relatively unchanged. So, and inspections, we've been busy up here doing inspections from 2024's permits. So 2025 was busy enough, but there was a bit of slowdown for sure. And there's some apprehension of the building community that we've seen that we're hopeful will change this year. So Middlesex Center provides building inspection services to in 2025 to 4 other municipalities. That's Adelaide Metcalfe, North Middlesex, Southwest Middlesex, and Middlesex Center, Lucan Biddulph. Yeah, we've added a fifth municipality, the village of Newbury, in 2026. So last year, I think they had 5 or 6 building permits. So we decided that we are able to absorb them. They asked if we'd be interested, and we offered, since they're sort of an island inside of Southwest Middlesex. We are driving through Newbury from time to time. So that'll be updated in our tables for the year end of this year. In the first table of the report, you'll see a comparator of how Lucan Biddulph compares to the other municipalities and what we've done as a group. Overall, the numbers have relatively been stable from 2024 to 2025, largely thanks to how busy North Middlesex has been. Ailsa Craig's been very successful with new dwellings there. Nearly more new dwellings in Ailsa Craig than there are in Middlesex Center last year. So it was a very good year for North Middlesex. The second table report just provides an annual comparison, new dwellings and permits, construction values and fees that were generated, comparison of the previous 5 years. And the third table provides a breakdown of the fourth quarter and year-end numbers compared to what we've seen in 2024. So again, you'll see the number of new singles down to 13 from 28. Townhouses have continued with their success, and speaking with some of the builders, looking forward to another very good year for townhouses this year. Overall, our outlook, and actually table 4 as a breakdown of where we're seeing the new dwellings in the municipality. So if you're interested in, where's development, Lucan versus Clandeboye and Granton, this is kind of where we're seeing the new dwellings. overall, the outlook for 2026, I'm thinking it's positive. We have Timber Ridge is going to start shortly. I have some builders asking about dates that they can get their building permits. And speaking with the Van Giel team, they're looking at a new price point and some aggressive moves this year. So again, thinking very positive for Lucan Biddulph this year coming up. So hopefully things turn around. If there's any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you for that. And questions or comments on this report? Yep.
Just maybe you don't know, I believe we're maybe removing the age of Timber Ridge or coming up on a future meeting or this meeting, I think, or next meeting. So is that, do you know if everything, which is exciting, that's ready to go more or less? I didn't know if there's any hiccups with any infrastructure or anything there, or do you know?
Sure. Through the mayor, I have checked with Planner Dan today that he's confident that the holding symbol will be removed next council meeting. And I think Jeff would support that they're ready to go with building permits the next day, hopefully. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? No, I mean, it is what it is, and I think we all agree that we hope that 2026 will mark a turnaround and some new excitement for building, that's for sure. So with that, I'll thank you for coming. Thank you for bringing the team. It was great. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. Yep, absolutely. And I guess we'll see you in a couple months. Okay. So with that, I will ask for a mover and a seconder to receive that report for information, please. Councillor Westman and Councillor Regan, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, on to Catherine. You've got a report.
Yeah, so this report tonight is just for information. It's a report that's required to bring to council every year before the end of March, and it's a statement of council remuneration and expenses paid in 2025. And the attachment shows the amounts there per council member. And it's not just the salary, but also the conference expenses and that sort of thing. So that's there for information, and any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, any questions or comments on that? Okay, if I can get a mover and a seconder to receive that report for information, please. Councillor Hodgins and Deputy Mayor Manders, all in favor? That's carried. Did you have anything verbal or anything to add, Catherine?
Just wanted to mention that the later on in the bylaws, there's the tax rate bylaw that's coming forward to set the rate for 2026.
Okay, great, thanks. If anybody had any questions on that? No. Okay, Jeff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have two reports for council tonight. The first one is the Rural Road Safety Audit. I'm presenting the audit to council. I know we talked about it earlier as part of the asset management plan, and I decided that it would be better for it to stand on its own as a presentation. So the road safety audit basically got started through some public comments about hazards on the rural roads, inquiries through our through contact, but also through our budget survey. We do get comments coming back in, so that was initiated, and we looked at this is the first time we've ever actually looked at the hazards of the back roads, so the rural roads. So it was the first time that we've conducted this. So, and just so council knows, it was done at a very high level, meaning that the idea was to give the back roads a once over and identify further hazards that needed work or needed investigation. So as to go right to the audit itself. So one of the things that the road safety audit noted was that there's a general hazard throughout rural roads, not just Lucan Biddulph, but in rural roads in general, and that's the lack of pedestrian and cycling infrastructure. obviously, that's a hard one to address on a large scale. But basically, what we're looking at is better signage to promote, to warn people on hills, curves, that sort of thing, that there could be visibility issues with cyclists and pedestrians on some of the roads. So that was one of the things we're going to look at in general, and see what we can do out there and add more signs. A couple of other very general recommendations that were in the audit was that as the municipality moves along, if we can add illumination if possible. This obviously can be a difficult when accessing hydro and putting up light poles, but it is something to look at depending on the hazard. Remove obstacles. We should be always looking to see if we can remove obstacles in the road allowance that could be hit, and as well improve intersection sight lines. So again, that's part of the idea there, is to create better sight lines if there's trees, fences, that sort of thing that could be moved to create better sight lines. As the audit goes along, it did identify two hazards that are particular to Lucan Biddulph that is across our rural road systems. And those two items were, the first one was a lack of road safety systems, which what that means is like guardrail or guide wire. So if there was a bridge or a culvert where a car could leave the road and have an issue, we should be looking at safety systems in these areas. And the other thing it identified was the non-recoverable drop-offs next to the road, which is a shoulder drop-off. And again, when the audit was being done, they found numerous spots throughout our rural roads for these things. So looking at this, I think it's quite reasonable that the township staff will develop a plan for both of these items and bring it back to council. Because it's a sort of deal where a drop off, depending if the drop off was on a narrow road or a wide road base, it could be a more severe hazard than one there. So I think it's a evaluation that we as staff can do and put together for lack of a better, a plan going forward at correcting these on a regular basis. The rural safety audit did also identify 6 priority action areas. These were areas that they felt the hazard presented itself in a more serious area that needs to be addressed. And those 6 priority areas are listed here. I won't go through them, all of them. I plan to address each one of these through our budget process coming up in our and update the asset management plan with these. And the reason why is because these are the items that are going to need more investigation and options for council to bring forward to council on correcting the hazard. It could be anything from guardrail or safety rails to purchasing property and actually rebuilding the road so it's safer. But I think those are options that have to be brought to council before we address those. However, there is one that I did point out in my report that township staff will address this year, and that is the Roman line for Richmond North. That's in front of the St. Pat's School. There was a real concern about the mixing of the parking, pedestrians, and traffic along in there by the church and the school. So we're going to look at line painting and maybe we've talked about speed control items in that area. We already have that as zoned as 40 kilometers. So I think we're going to take the next step because it is a school zone in there. So that one made the list because of the interaction of the pedestrians and the parking and the roadway there. So that one will be followed up this year. And that's basically, I'm not going to go through, there is the report, it isn't, or the audit is included. If there's any questions, I can follow up.
Great. Thank you very much, Jeff. Questions or comments on this? And we kind of highlighted it during the asset management discussions, but if there was anything that you wanted to further ask Jeff about or highlight. Thank you very much. These sort of audits are things that obviously Good Roads has been advocating for. And, we're actively working with the province to try and, come up with sort of a funding envelope for these kind of things because, what's been highlighted and what's been pointed out obviously is very important to our rural road safety and our rural road network. But sometimes I don't want to call it low-hanging fruit, but it sometimes gets lost in amongst the bigger projects that we take on and we take for, when you say, a lack of rural road safety systems like guardrails, that's just something that you just doesn't necessarily come up in conversation when you're talking about redoing roads and of course all of our water and wastewater infrastructure. So I'm really happy that we've got this because I think that it will give your department the ability to constantly look at it and bring those projects back to budget, and hopefully we can start to, chip away at those for sure.
Sorry, I just thought of something, if I may. Thank you. So Jeff, with the identified areas, the 6 priority areas, did they list which ones are more important? Did they prioritize those for you in the report?
Through the mayor, no, they just listed the six areas or the 6 components that we should look into. And because they're prioritized, they are identified with, they're worried about the severity of the hazard, meaning that this isn't about just going off the road. This is takes it to the next step. So I think there's a concern around all 6. I think all 6 need to be addressed.
Right. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, if there's no further discussion on that, then I would ask for a mover and a seconder to receive that report for information, please. Deputy Mayor Manders and Councillor Westman, all in favor? That's carried. All right, the next one, Jeff.
Oh, Madam Mayor, this is
And I will just, sorry,
Yep.
Jeff, I just will say to council that Andrew Garland from BM Ross is joining us via Zoom, should there be any questions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a report that has been quite a while in the making. It is the purpose of this report is to give councils the result of the wastewater treatment plant expansion tender, and to make a recommendation to council based on the investigation or looking into the low tenders. The Lucan wastewater treatment plant, currently the one was built in 1992. In 2019, the township started the process of planning for a sanitary plant expansion. And so you can see that it's been almost 7 years, 6 years in the planning stage and the design stage. So it's been coming. Which is not unusual. It does take the projects of this size do take a lot of study and a lot of getting approvals. With BM Ross's support and the county procurement services, I can't say enough for Josh and Stephen over there. The township issued the tender on December 16th. It closed on February 18th of this year, and we received 7 submissions. Baudouin Canada was the low bid, and Finbuilt General Contractor was second. And the reason I say that is the bottom two lowest bids were then reviewed by both BM Ross and the County Procurement Services. And we were to look into, obviously make sure all their numbers. We looked at their their references and made sure that everything was in place so that the two bids could be compared for us to look at. Upon comparing them, and it was the conclusion that that after reviewing everything, that we are recommending to award the low tender the bid, and that was agreed upon by the county and BM Ross. And I present that to council that Bodwin Canada get the approval. In just to follow up on the budget item, as council is aware, the tendered price is listed as $19,414,547.25, and that includes the net HST. We did receive 73% funding for that. So that means that 27% of that will still have to be determined how to be covered. It'll be a combination of development charges, sanitary reserves, additional grants, and maybe a loan will be in play there. A separate report will come to council, and we will provide council with a funding strategy for the remaining or for the overall project. Once we know all the components, because we still have part of the funding component is the main trunk line expansion between Campanelli and Kent Street. That tender will be closing and brought to council in April. So that's the other component that we have to close off so that we then can bring forward the financing and how we're going to move forward with it. So that information will be coming to council in detail. The other thing I'd like to say to council too is that once we start moving towards construction on this project, we are going to come back to council with a presentation on how that construction will take place, timelines, and how it'll work. I've talked to BM Ross about that because they've been with us through each step, and it has made sure that council is aware of each step has processed. And I think the next step after this is the construction. So that will come back to council as well for more information. So having said that, I'll leave it at that. And any questions?
Might put Andrew on the spot and just say, is there anything that you wanted to add to Jeff's report before I open it up for questions?
Thanks, Mayor Taffy and members of council for having me. I thought that might be the first question, and I would just say no. I think Jeff did a pretty good job of summarizing it overall. From our perspective, it's always great to see the level of interest that we did see on this tender. To get 7 bidders is pretty good. We've had as few as 1 before on big projects, and that's not a good feeling. So it's good to see the level of interest, and then also a positive from our perspective to see relatively competitive pricing. The low 2 tenders being about 5 or 6% from each other is usually a good indicator. If there's a big gap between them, that sometimes is something that would give us cause for concern. But in this case, that all went about as good as we could hope for, I think. So yeah, I would leave my comments at that, but to echo Jeff, if there are any questions about next steps or anything, more than happy to try to take those.
Okay, great. So I will open up to council. Councillor Regan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, guys, for the report. I just wanted to ask about when you're making that decision, because I think that's one of the biggest decisions I've been asked to make. But when you're making that decision to recommend the low bidder, how much of that had to do with the fact that they're going to utilize local subcontractors?
So, Madam Mayor, that's a good question. So part of the tender is to list your subs, to deliver your subcontractors. So we did review the subcontractor list. These guys are a Quebec company, but they are based out of Guelph. And they are using local contractors, so we were able to determine that. So it's, yeah, we can go from there.
Thank you. That's good for now. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Just a couple things. On the 73%, I think you said, of the funding of the expense, does that include the BM Ross expense of managing it? I believe they're managing it at around, I don't know if it was $1 million. I forget now what it was, but can that be included in that?
Yeah, so they're eligible costs for the project for the grant will include all the engineering. We can go back as far as April of 2023. So once we get, so we have this tender, then we have the engineering cost associated with running this project. And then of course the trunk sewer main cost to do the construction plus the engineering on that. Once we have those 4 components, then all of those costs can be included in the, for the grant.
Okay, good. And probably not a question you need to answer now, but it'll just to give Andrew and Jeff a heads up that I'll be asking at a future presentation then of kicking this off is the 750,000 contingency, just how that's approved, who approves it. Is it approved after the fact? And maybe what I will be asking is that we see that 750,000 whether it be every month, every 2 months, and just see if it ever gets touched, why it gets touched, and an explanation. That'll be my expectations. But just so you know, I think it's good for council to keep an eye. Obviously the 21 million is a big number, but 750,000 is a big number as an added cost. So anyways, I just definitely want comments on why that's being drained and when it's being drained. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Hodgins?
Just a comment. Just want to say thank you, Jeff and team, and thanks County Procurement. Thanks Andrew and BM Ross team. It's a huge milestone in this project, and yeah, exciting to be breaking ground soon on this. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other comments, questions? Well, I will definitely echo what Councillor Hodgins said. You know, I think we knew that it was going to be a 6-7 year project to get us to this point. So certainly happy to be here. Just a couple questions. Jeff, you mentioned the trunk line that is that new? Will that be part of the cost that current users have to pay for? Or is that part of this? And then subsequent to that, when we talk about financing the project, I think all the way along, we've known that some of it is new, some of it is just revitalizing, you know, old components. And so I'm assuming when the finance piece comes back, part of it will indicate how much our current users are responsible for.
Yeah. Madam Mayor, I'll start with the trunk line. It is an expansion for development. It is listed in our DCs, and it is part of the funding. We did present it as part of that, so it is part of that. But it is for development, so it is under the DCs, not current users. The second question you had, and I guess I will maybe take a run at. So we have I don't want to get too complicated because I don't want to get lost in the numbers, but we have a 73 and a 27 as part of the funding. So the 27 then is what we have to then look at. And it is a portion of it, a majority of it will be paid by DCs. And then there'll be a small portion that goes to current users because there is an upgrade component or a rebuilding component of the existing infrastructure. So that 27 then gets broke down into another ratio. And that will come forward to council in the next report. I don't want to, once we get the numbers and once we know the final figures, then we'll have an idea of what's going to DCs and what's going to capital reserves.
Yeah, so, yeah, once we have all that, then, yeah, we'll have a better idea of how to break down the numbers. The loan piece will be contingent on probably having a loan, but then paying that back with DCs that we collect in the future. That's because we don't have enough DCs collected that we anticipated for the project this time, so, that's what bringing the loan as a possibility, but certainly with having the grant, the loan amount is a lot less. So that's a really good bonus. And yeah, so we'll have as we get all the numbers, we'll be able to take our fulsome look at how that's funded and present to council how much of we want to use from reserves versus you also at the last meeting talked about using the Housing Accelerator Fund as well towards that. So we have that grant as well. So once we kind of look at all the pieces, we'll have a better to give a report. So plan forward.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. And then the next question I have is kind of maybe a step further than what Councillor Regan asked. And I just wondered, do we know how Bill 72 is going to impact this project? So that's the Buy Ontario Act. And do we know, and has, I guess, county procurement looked at that and how that's going to affect the project?
Yeah, that was we did have so we had a number of meetings as this tender was being, and Josh, from county procurement did sit in on all the meetings. And Ron and myself, that was one of the questions we put to Josh. And because this tender is prior to the regulations, his take is that, it's not going to affect this because the bid and the tender closed prior to the regulations being passed, basically.
Well, the regulations, but the bill passed in December, so, but the regulations are still out, so just, but
Through you, Madam Mayor. You know, Josh has been absolutely wonderful throughout this whole thing, and he really seems to have his finger on the pulse of what's happening out there. So I 100% trust him, and but we can certainly bring that up again. Are you sure? So thank you.
no, I appreciate that. Okay, other than that, one last call for questions or comments. Just that, no, a lot of hard work. Appreciate everything that BM Ross has done to get us to this point, and of course, Jeff and your team. This is a good motion to be passing. I think we're all excited to be able to pass it tonight. And finally, looking forward to shovels in the ground, that's for sure. It'll be good. So if there's nothing else, I will ask for a mover and a seconder. I will read the motion that report number PW-05-2026 be received by council for information, and further that the council of the Township of Lucan Biddulph authorize staff to accept the tender from, is it Baudouin, Canada, in the amount of 21,559,000, including HST, for the Lucan wastewater treatment expansion project. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Westman and Councillor Regan, all in favor. And that's carried. Thank you very much, Jeff. Thank you very much, Andrew. I'm sure we'll be seeing you in the not too distant future.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Did you have anything verbal or anything, Jeff? Okay, Darcy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My first report is on the concession services. The report is before you. I'll just quickly summarize. This did go to PRAC, and it was there was an appetite to go back to the market to see what's out there for the concession services. We have gone with the current contractor for 3 years, and we believe that they will apply again. So we hope they do, and we're looking for a new agreement in July. So the RFP will go out in April, close in June, and then I will close in May, sorry, and then I will come in June to council to approve the new contractor. So, and it will also go to the PRAC May 21st. I'll gladly take any questions.
Okay. Any questions on this? Deputy Mayor.
The current supplier there, they did fulfill their contract, and that was our expectations, was to do this, whether through council and staff yourself, correct? Like it was a 2-year plus one, I think.
Yeah, so through the mayor, yeah, it was a 1-year agreement first and we extended it for 2 more. And so it's been a 3-year agreement. And I think it's just, it's time that we go to the market and see what else is out there.
Gotcha. Nope. Oh, very good. Thank you.
Councillor Hodge.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Just wondering if there's anything, just based on our experience running this for 3 years, if there's anything we're looking to change up, or is it basically sort of status quo with how we're moving forward?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think a lot of it is status quo. We want to go with the same scoring system. PrAC recommended the kind of the same scoring system as we did before, which give some scoring to healthy menu options, as we are a facility that would like to have some healthy menu options. One thing in the agreement is just to more outline the requirements of the concession stand, as far as like health unit inspections and that kind of stuff. We want to make sure that we're all on the same page of when they might be due, hood cleanings, who's responsible type thing. It just wasn't laid out quite clear in the agreement. We got through it and everything was fine, but I just would like to lay that out a little clearer in the agreement. But other than that, there's not too much to change.
Sounds good. Thank you. No, that's good. Thank you.
Sorry, Counselor. Okay, thank you. No, I just wanted to ask about one of the things that when we're evaluating was hours of operation. It was just one thing that I did here. And I don't know, and I can't remember if that's part of the criteria that we put forward or if that's something we should put forward or consider, sorry.
Yes. Through you, Madam Mayor, that is part of the scoring. The hard part in that is putting the foot to the fire when it comes to it. Like what obligation do they have to be open those hours, and who's there to make sure that they have staff in their hours? But I will say our contractor did a fairly good job of supplying the hours that they promised, and we hope the next one will as well. But that is the only issue, is what they write on the RFP is holding them to that throughout the contract and making sure they are open.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I guess maybe I would like a better understanding of PrAC wanting to go this route way. I guess I look at the next report and it's a different approach to how we're dealing with that contract. So I just wondered if there was anything, and maybe we don't want to say anything publicly, I get that, about the current contractor or anything, but I just wondered if there was anything in particular that PrAC was pushing why to go to RFP.
Yes, you, Madam Mayor. I think the big thing was the appetite for change. There is an appetite throughout the minor sports groups and the user groups that to see if there is the ability to change. I think there is a little bit of a want to change in the concession, or at least have a new agreement that maybe holds a little bit more of accountability on hours and that kind of stuff. And overall, going into the next agreement, I think it's a bit of a different story. So
you're gonna okay, so the RFP is they put the proposal in and then you form your contract from there. You're not going to lay out certain criteria?
So how the RFP was written last time, and I think we'll go in the same route, is they kind of lay out and they give the idea of what they want to see, what they would present, like what hours they would be open for, what rent they would supply, what menu options they would supply, and at what prices. And then they will get evaluated and we'll choose which one meets the most, but then we'll build the agreement from there, from what they said they can do, and go from there.
Right, any further questions? With that, then we have the motion that report number PR-03-2026 be received for information and that council approve staff proceeding with a request for proposals process for concession services at the Lucan Biddulph Community Memorial Center with the intent of awarding a new concession agreement effective following the expiration of the current contract in July of 2026. A mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Regan and Deputy Mayor Manders. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, your next one, Darcy.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Next one is the fitness center agreement. This one overall has been good. We've been in a 2-year. We didn't go the 3-year like we did with the concession. So this has only been together for 2 years. So we are asking to extend for another 2 years. So this would be a 4-year agreement. As you see, the fees do change quite dramatically throughout the next 2 years. Other than that, I will remind council in January of 2025 when I brought this, we did have this reviewed by legal, and the agreement was approved by legal, and I think it is a good agreement. We had no issues. So most of the agreement stayed the exact same. It's mostly just the fees that change for the next 2 years. So I'll gladly take any questions.
Okay, so when you say that it's 4 years, it's 4 years in total, like from beginning to the end. We're not signing it to 2030.
Yes, through Madam Mayor. Yes, that is correct. It's a 2-year extension from the 2 years that have already happened.
Okay. Questions or comments from council? Deputy Mayor Manders.
No, I'm glad to see that. I've heard good things about it. The fitness center. Just you made up good, or you had a good point there on the cleaning of the hood, for the canteen. Anything catching your attention on this before approval that you for the extension that you thought, hey, this got missed, or it kind of runs seamless?
Through Madam Mayor, yeah, this one's pretty seamless. Some of the issues that we had is just with it being our equipment, we have to make sure that we're maintaining our equipment because we do own most of the equipment. But in the agreement, we did do an inventory check every year. So every year he provides inventory, the condition of it, so we can plan to repair or replace as we need. Down the road, as the fitness center gets older, we are probably going to have to look at some budget allocation for the fitness center as far as keeping up with the equipment, if that's the avenue we're going. But right now, everything's in good shape and we can do most of it through the operational budget.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah, Councilor.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just wanted to ask Darcy, so the hours of operation are still good? Attendances, like a lot of people are, when I'm there a lot, so not at the fitness center, but just at the community center. But there's well, I try not to be there. That doesn't say a lot for me, does it? No. I just walk around. So, but I'm just wondering, it's still used and there's no complaints about the hours, because I know they have a different system about getting in now, like the key fob thing, so. And now I'll stop.
Yes, through Madam Mayor to Councillor Regan. Yes, so just over the last year, after we put the key fob system in, he was able to open up the hours and have a little bit more of drop-in hours, which we have seen an increase in people coming through the doors to go into the drop-in. He still will do individual lessons with at times. I know early in the morning he does a lot of that stuff. So he still does offer that, but there is a lot of drop-in time that has been valuable, and his hours are good, and I've heard zero complaints about the hours that he's open.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Hodgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just some comments. I think it's I'm glad to see this going ahead and that this partnership has been successful for both parties. And yeah, I think it's a great service to have available, and it really activates the space. And yeah, great as well to see that we're able to increase revenues kind of in that incremental way over time. So that's good. That's going to help us with those budgeted items Darcy mentioned earlier. So great report, very supportive. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions or comments? Okay, yep, good. I just echo what everybody else has said. Mover and a seconder for that council approve the attached fitness center management agreement, extending the term for 2 years, and to authorize staff to finalize and execute the agreement on behalf of the township. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Hodgins and Councillor Westman. All in favor? And that's carried. Did you have anything verbal? Nothing. Lisa, Economic Development.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, I have one report before council tonight regarding community events. The report tonight is mostly regarding Lucan Summerfest and Canada Day and how we look for that in the future. Over the last number of years, we had COVID. Obviously, things were quiet. Lucan Summerfest kind of was the one thing that we could do outside very safely. We kind of built on it for the last few years, but now we're finding that there's a lot of community organizations that are doing a lot more than maybe previous years, and just we're doing outdoor movie nights, and then the night markets are now happening. So there's a lot more events that have come out of since, let's say, 2023 that have kind of led staff to this report and discussion for council. So with that, staff is kind of recommending that we no longer plan or activate Lucan Summerfest, and that we put any of that sort of energy and potential sponsorships towards amplifying Canada Day and creating it to be much more of a robust event. And like I said, getting sponsorships for those additional things that we could add to Canada Day to make it more, like I said, more entertaining of a day. And like I said, it's hard because the events are basically 2 weeks apart. So you're kind of like, have Canada Day, and all of a sudden 2 weeks later we got Summerfest. So we're having some duplications in that. So like I said, bringing forward, staff is kind of recommending this move forward to enhancing Canada Day and no longer doing Summerfest. So up for council's discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Lisa. And comments, Councillor Regan.
Thank you very much. So I actually support this. And the reason I do is that every time we go to, I've been to Canada Day, the attendance gets higher and higher and higher. And it's a huge family event. You know, like Lucan Biddulph is Canada Day. And it's one of those things where you see a lot of people in our community that don't normally come to our community center, come to our community center. And it's just, and so again, enhancing it that way with maybe other events and maybe getting people to stay after the fireworks maybe, but almost like a homecoming thing. So, because I mean, just from a personal note, I invite all my family up to come up just for that day, because it's a family event. And speaking to that, so we think about the night markets, which I see increased attendance, the movie nights, the smaller venue things that we do. We work to enhance, perhaps, I don't know if it's part of this, but we can enhance those a little bit, because it's all family oriented. We got grandparents taking their grandkids. That's how I see it, and I see it more and more and more. So I really do support that. It's just having that one event and again, making it into something really big. That's what I think. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councillor Hodgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just because it wasn't kind of explicitly said, and it's so what we're saying here is that like no Summerfest this year. Just to clearly state that. Can that be confirmed, please?
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, no Summerfest this year. And to add on to my other comments, you know, again, we do have the neighborhood grants now, which are now online, and we're seeing other communities, neighborhoods kind of pick up this summer. I've already had 2 applications for some grants. So there's things happening. The Lucan Legion's doing a lot of, you know, night stuff, and I think they're looking at maybe some outdoor stuff in the summer. So I think we're going to be covered off pretty well in entertainment. But yes, no Summerfest, and hopefully reaching out to some of those sponsors then to move that towards Canada Day. So, you know, besides our federal government grant, hoping to enhance it through community sponsors as well.
Okay, thank you. And I guess we've gone through our budget process and got our budget approved, and there's funds allocated there for Summerfest, or there was not?
No.
Okay, I guess that answers that question then. Thank you.
Okay, other comments? Okay, no, I think this is a good direction. I think you did a good job of explaining why we took on Lucan Summerfest and why it's now time to maybe move on from that. And just a reminder that not every municipality takes on a big event like that, and it's not really a municipal experience or expectation. And you're absolutely right, Councillor Regan. Canada Day is an event that people come from all over, and I would suspect they come from neighboring municipalities is because not every municipality does Canada Day the way we do. So yeah, that's good. All right, if there's no further discussion on that, then the report in front of us is that council receives report EDC-04-2026 for information and supports the recommendation of staff to enhance Canada Day celebrations. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Regan and Deputy Mayor Manders, all in favor, and that is carried. Do you have anything verbal, Lisa? Okay, other business. If there is something that you want to add to other business, let Tina know. I believe there's any notice of motions, councillor comments, and I'm going to look at Councillor Westman right now.
All right, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, on the 21st of February, I was able to attend the Middlesex Federation of Agriculture Politicians Forum. And pretty educational. It was interesting that pretty much every sector of agriculture in our county was represented there. Dairy, beef, pork, dairy goats, dairy sheep and meat sheep, as well as poultry and seed oil producers and cash croppers. So there's pretty much the entire gambit of agriculture. And we're Lucan Biddulph is largely agricultural. We have a fairly sizable agricultural industry here, and we employ the agricultural sector in Lucan Biddulph is the biggest employer. Now, one thing that I noticed throughout every sector of agriculture in this community, they were asking the same questions of our politicians, and that was employment. They have a hard time getting enough workers, and a lot of them are trying to utilize the temporary foreign workers, migrant workers, and new Canadians, and they're having difficulty getting and retaining enough people to do it. And there's a number of factors that are contributing to it. And one of them is immigration, and there's been some changes to the immigration process, permanent residency process, and the temporary foreign workers process that are making it harder for new Canadians and for migrant workers to navigate the system and to stay employed. And I personally, my primary income is in the finished end of the poultry sector, and we employ in our facility 700 people that are on work permits, and we lost 64 of them between November and January, simply because their work permits expired or there was an issue there. And we do what we can through our union and through our company to help them navigate that system, but it's very difficult. So that was one of the bigger ones that every sector spoke to. The other things are agricultural-based education systems and what our provincial and federal government are doing to help support those programs within our education facilities, local colleges, and specialized education providers. And there's not a lot of it. I mean, there is definitely a lack in agricultural education. So we're hoping to see the provincial and federal governments maybe do some investment in education programs that would keep people, farm kids grow up and have an opportunity to train in the agricultural industry and stay and get good paying jobs in that industry and have opportunity for growth and development. So that's a big part of it too. Now, the third one was resources like feed for livestock and other necessities and supplies. Kind of ties into the education thing too. I mean, getting enough educated and qualified people to do the work and to be involved, not just in the grassroots on the farm industry, but through the process of the grain marketing and storage and processing, and in the agricultural based food based industries that like the one I work in. So it was quite educational. I have to say, and without getting too political, a little disappointed with some of the response from our federal and provincial guys. our politicians there, didn't seem to quite get the messaging that was being sent to them by the local representatives of the different industries. But I'm hoping that they take away something and then they go back and digest it and think harder on it. Because I know locally here, we have, yeah, a lot of big farm operations and especially dairy and poultry. And that was well represented there. I had an opportunity to sit at the table with some of the bigger poultry producers in the area. And being part of that industry, we had some really good breakout conversations about what was needed. And I think their messaging to our politicians was pretty clear, not open for interpretation. It was very clear. This is what we need, and what can you do to help us get there? So it was quite educational, and I got to say I was really honored to be there. There wasn't our municipal politicians. There was only 4 of us there in the group: Strathroy, Adelaide Metcalf, Southwest Middlesex, and Lucan Biddulph was represented there, and we got a chance to talk to a lot of the local farming producers, and that I think was a big part of it for me, was being able to hear from everybody. And I think in Lucan Biddulph, at least, I think we're in pretty good shape here as far as our agricultural industry. Other than a lot of our operators are looking for people and they're not getting them. So that's my report. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Councillor Westman, and appreciated that you were able to attend that session. And I do think it's important as an agricultural community that we attended and were part of that. So thank you very much. Deputy Mayor Manders.
A question for Lisa. The industrial lands, is there any more parcels available, like the 1.5, 2 acre parcels serviceable for us to be selling, or where does our industrial land sit?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So at this time, the phase 1 is sold out, right? So we sold 3 lots off last year, and then we've retained parcel for our future use sort of thing. So what's left over is phase 2 right now, which is almost 21 acres. Services at the road, but it's a 20-acre parcel at this time. So we've been working with the county we'll have some inquiries come in from different industries looking for parcel sizes from 10 to 20. So we submit our property for consideration. So we get those every few months. Generally, we have to look at how much water they're taking and those sort of things. And some of them we can't take, but we've had some interested parties, but that's kind of where we sit now. The County of Middlesex is also resubmitting all our industrial land properties, whether it's our owned or private. The province has changed their when they do searches for property, it was always over a certain acreage. So now they're including up to 5 acres is the smallest they'll include. So it's opened up some lands even for some private things. So the county's redoing our inventory for all the lower tiers right now. And so it'll be on a site through on the province of Ontario where interested investors can go look at where properties are available. It's kind of where we are right now. We're definitely open to offers if someone wants to buy probably 10 or 20 acres, but that's
So I think
as low as we'll go at this point without having to service the property.
yeah, because obviously it's very expensive to service and put in the roads and everything else. But I guess then if someone was to ask, I think, I'm fine with the answer. Then it's just right now it's just being offered as a large parcel, either 20 or 10 acres, and then maybe new council then for longer term vision would have to decide, what to put in services and road and everything. It might be 180,000 an acre. Who knows? To cover our costs. But at that time, I would say we're currently then, unless a big parcel sells, we're leaving it for new council. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Yeah, Councillor Hodgins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you. Just the other business wasn't attached, but there was one item in the minutes to be added to other business list. Just you brought it up last meeting about the report on the the winter season, just that follow-up. So I just wanted to note that for that other business list.
Thank you for that. Make a note of that. Okay. And if that's it, then for councillor comments, we'll go into bylaws, and we have 3 bylaws in front of us. One is for the transfer payment agreement for the funding under HUSIF, the one that sets the tax rates, and then our confirming bylaws. So the motion in front of us is the bylaws 10-2026 through 12-2026 inclusive be read a first, second, and third and final time and be adopted. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Hodgins and Councillor Regan. All in favor? And that's carried. And resolved that the council meeting be adjourned at 8:35 p.m. Mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor Manders and Councillor Westman. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much.